today on the Frontline Health Podcast.
Yeah, I think the next thing is you look at that nutrition facts panel and you check out what the serving size says, because everything else on that label depends on the serving size. So sometimes a bottle contains 2 servings, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, but sometimes people accidentally consume more servings than you even realize. So you could sit down and eat half a bag of potato chips and you've just had 25 servings because maybe that potato chip bag says only 3 potato chips make up a serving. And we have to be careful from that standpoint of what we're getting. So even if it says it's low in calories, it may only be low in calories because it's saying it's a half a chip that they're counting the calorie count in.
Welcome back to the Frontline Health Podcast, where we share health news, tips, and insights to help you take ownership of your health. I'm your host, Evan Patrick, and we want to ask you a question today. Have you ever stood in the grocery store holding 2 products that both claim to be healthy, natural, high in protein, and you wonder which one is actually better? Food packaging is full of buzzwords: low fat, high protein, organic, natural, whole grain, heart healthy. The list goes on and on and on. But how much of that actually tells us what's inside the package? Today we're talking about one of the most practical health skills you can learn, and that's how to read a food label. Joining me as always, Centurion Health founder and CEO, Troy Duell.
Evan, good to be here. This is definitely one of my favorite topics because once you know how to read that label, grocery store shopping becomes a whole lot simpler, but unfortunately in some ways it becomes a whole lot scarier because you know what you're looking at and you can start to see how we've been fooled all through the years when it comes to labels and marketing.
So I want to start by asking you a question, Troy, that I think I know the answer to. If food labels are supposed to help consumers make informed decisions, why do they seem to confuse everyone instead?
Well, I think it's because we fall for the marketing, because the front of that package is really designed to sell the product. And
No.
unfortunately, I know it's crazy. Unfortunately, that's the part that we always see. That's the part that they put out in front of you in a grocery store is the front of that package. And you see all those buzzwords that you already talked about. And we fall for that instead of taking that package and turning it around to the back where we see that it's actually used to inform you. So those things that say made with whole grains, immune support, natural, or even organic only tell just part of the story, and we have to read the label to really find out what's going on with that product that we picked up.
Okay, so let's walk people through this for a second. Let's make it really, really practical. I've picked up a box of something at the grocery store. I'm looking at it. I'm comparing my options. And should we make this interactive for our listeners? If you guys are listening to this, you can pause the episode right now, go pick up something from your pantry, and you can go through this with us. But I want to ask you, Troy, you're looking at something at the grocery store. Where should my eyes go first?
Well, we should take that package and turn it around and start looking at the back. And unfortunately, most of us just look at what's the calorie count that's in that product. But really what we should be looking at is the ingredient list itself, because that ingredient is going to tell you, or the ingredient list is going to tell you what the product is actually made of. So they're listed in descending order by weight, meaning the first few ingredients are going to be the ones that have the most in it. And that's how you know. So if the first word is sugar, you know that it has more sugar than it does anything else in that product. So that's where I would go to look at things.
So I never knew this. Thank you for sharing that. If sugar is one of the first ingredients, that's a good clue that there is a lot of sugar in something.
That's exactly right. So if another example is if a product claims to be made with whole grains, but the first ingredient is refined flour, that tells you that it may not be just whole grains, that maybe they threw some in there so they could say it, but it's not what they're actually made fully by.
Troy, I can't believe that our food manufacturers would do something like that. But as you say, it's one of those tricks. So you've looked at the ingredients. you've seen the order of them. You've seen the things that really stand out to you that are, that there's a lot of in the product. What comes next?
Yeah, I think the next thing is you look at that nutrition facts panel and you check out what the serving size says because everything else on that label depends on the serving size. So sometimes a bottle contains 2 servings, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, but sometimes people accidentally consume more servings than you even realize. So you could sit down and eat half a bag of potato chips and you've just had 25 servings because maybe that potato chip bag says only 3 potato chips make up a serving. And we have to be careful from that standpoint of what we're getting. So even if it says it's low in calories, it may only be low in calories because it's saying it's a half a chip that they're counting the calorie count in.
So this has definitely happened to me before, especially if you're like going on a road trip and you go into the gas station, you grab one of those infamous gas station snacks, you get like a bag of trail mix or something, and you're eating a snack, and then all of a sudden you get to close to the end of that bag of trail mix and you realize you've eaten 3 servings and 800 calories.
Easy to do because I think we've all done it. But yes, that serving size puts everything into context so you can actually make a more educated decision about what you're eating.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, on that note, one of the things I think people have been trained to do is to really pay close attention to the number of calories that are in something. But what I think a lot of people are under the impression of is that if something has a lot of calories, it's bad for you. But if it doesn't, if it is low calorie, then it must be good for you. So, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think calories certainly matter. So we don't want to say that calories don't matter, but it really is what's inside those calories that count. So if something is nutrient dense and you're getting lots of protein, you're getting lots of carbohydrates that are good for you, carbohydrates, then that is much better than if you get something that is only carbohydrates that are driving those calories. So you want to make sure that whatever you're getting has a nutrient dense type of calorie. So you want to be getting all the vitamins and minerals that you need from it. And that happens more often when you're talking about whole foods, whole fruits, and good lean proteins that we can get.
This episode is brought to you by Centurion Health. We're leading to make life better by providing safe, effective, and affordable health and wellness products made in the USA to help you elevate your health and life. As a special thank you to our podcast listeners, Centurion Health is giving you 15% off when you use discount code Frontline15 at checkout. Visit www.centurion.health to elevate your health today. So calories, they are one piece of the puzzle, but they are not the be-all, end-all of whether something is good for you or not.
That's absolutely right. I think we can go back to our car analogy that we've talked about several times. You could have a car that has plenty of oil, but doesn't have transmission fluid in it. And just because you have plenty of oil doesn't mean that your car is going to be a well-tuned or finely tuned machine that's going to operate well, because you need the oil and the transmission fluid and the gas and all the other components in order for it to be a great.
So if someone is in the grocery store and they're looking at 2 different products and they're comparing them, they're trying to make the healthy choice, what are the nutrients that they should pay the most attention to?
Yeah, I think first I'd look at those ingredients. If that ingredient list is almost wider than the box and it goes down like 5 or 6 rows, that's a good sign that it's not going to be filled with the best things that our body needs. So it's going to be highly processed. And if you can't pronounce the things that are in it, there's probably a good chance that it's a highly processed ingredient in there as well. But beyond that, if it's got protein, if it's got fiber and sodium and sugars, those would be the things that I would probably look at, because that protein and fiber helps you feel a little bit fuller and allows you no longer just to have to dive in to food. And if it has too much sugar, then it may make you want to snack more because you're not going to have that full feeling afterwards, and it's going to wear off pretty quickly when it comes to it. So those would be the main things I'd look at.
So one of those things is added sugars. Why is the distinction between added sugars and sugars that are just naturally in something important?
Yeah, and I think we've touched on this on a podcast before, but on average, Americans get about 77 grams of sugar per day. So that 77 grams, we're supposed to get as males, 36 grams a day, and as women, about 27 grams per day, I believe. So with that, we're getting 3 times the amount that the American Heart Association feels like we should have. And you're getting just added sugars, which means you're not getting any benefit from it. When we talk about sugar from fruit and vegetables, we know that you have other things that go along with it, like fiber and other nutrients, and your body doesn't process it the same way. It can make you still feel full when you do fruits and vegetables, whereas if it's a processed food and you have that sugar, then you're not going to feel full and you're not getting the full benefit that you would of having one of those whole foods that we talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I want to touch on something that you alluded to a second ago. You mentioned if you see a really, really long ingredient list with a lot of things that you can't pronounce, that is kind of a red flag that should go up for you. I hear people say things like this all the time. If you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. Or if you see an especially long ingredient list that you should stay away from it. Is that a hard and fast rule, or are there exceptions?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly are some exceptions because obviously there are scientific names that come along with it. But for the most part, I think it's a great rule and a great way to look at things. But vitamin C is probably the best example of it. You may see vitamin C, or it might appear as ascorbic acid, which is not the easiest thing to say, but it certainly isn't bad for you. And you just need to make sure that you start to see the patterns that are coming on, maybe even learn what some of the other names of the vitamins that you're trying to intake would be. So then you're not necessarily scared by some of the words and you know exactly what you're taking into your body.
Yeah, so long ingredient list doesn't automatically mean something's unhealthy, but it is a sign that it may not be the best thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say you could probably even back up that if you're looking at an ingredient list and it's on the back of a box, there's a good chance that it's not going to be as beneficial to you as staying on the outside of the grocery stores. Meaning, if you go to the outside, it's minimally processed or not processed at all because it's going to be fruits and vegetables or dairy versus that's in the middle of the grocery store. And if you're reading those boxes, typically those are going to be more highly processed than any place else. So I would certainly look at it from that standpoint.
So this might be the more fun part of the conversation for me, because there are a lot of really interesting rabbit trails that we could go down with this. But I want to talk about some of those phrases that we do see on the front of packages that do market these products, like natural, healthy, made with whole grains, high protein, organic. Some of those, it seems like, I'm just throwing this out there. It seems like maybe an exaggeration or a claim that is not necessarily founded in reality. That's on those boxes and on those food labels.
Yeah, I think all you have to do is say, okay, this is natural, but it's inside a box, inside a plastic bag. That's usually not the case of most natural products. If it's natural, it's probably not packaged. There are some exceptions where you could have dried fruit or freeze-dried fruit or something along those lines. So you can certainly look at that, but it really depends on the claim itself. So if it says natural, there could be some natural ingredients. I think one that probably to me gets the most is organic. So we see organic, and all of a sudden you see organic this, organic that, organic seed oils. that they're putting into a lot of these products. So it's still seed oils, but they're saying it's organic. And because it's organic, we go, oh, it must be better for us. But it's still a seed oil that makes it a highly processed food.
And we've talked about this before, but can you just say a little bit about how a food manufacturer is able to get that certified organic label or sticker on their label? Because my understanding is it's not just because you see organic on a label, that doesn't guarantee that what you're eating is actually organic.
Yeah, I mean, you can pay certain fees and you can get things labeled as organic. Now, for the most part, organic does mean that it's going to be better, but there are some who push the envelope, and I think a lot of that is with the ingredients themselves. I mean, I want to say I saw something crazy. I can't remember if this was it, but it was like organic xanthan gum. I'm like, how do you get organic xanthan gum? I don't get that. So you have other organic things that we wouldn't have on a regular basis, but we're able to claim it as organic because of the ingredients that they put together to make it synthetic. And I think that's the biggest piece that comes into play in my mind of where we have to be careful, and we just need to read that ingredients list and make sure that everything in there is organic, because they may have 2 or 3 ingredients that are organic, but the rest of it not be, and they can claim organic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's get one final application for our listeners before we wrap up this episode. What is one habit that would improve most people's grocery shopping that you would recommend?
Yeah, I think the first thing is take your time when you go in. Obviously, you don't want to be hungry when you go to a grocery store, because then you're just grabbing things off the shelf and you're ready to eat. But instead of just putting that first product into your cart, compare those products together. So if you've got 2 of them side by side, see what ingredients are in them and make sure that that nutrition label is the same on both. And you can start to see patterns in how things are marketed and how things are listed. And then you become better at seeing that, and your grocery time gets faster over time because you've done your due diligence ahead of time to make sure that you're getting better quality food. And I think it's also a little bit of grace here. You don't have to be perfect. We're just trying to make one bite at a time and getting a little bit better each and every day with the choices we make, because we know one decision will help catapult you to greater health over time.
Thanks for that, Troy. I think for me, the big thing is to not be too distracted by the front of the package or a long ingredient list, but really look at that ingredient list, understand the serving sizes, use the nutrition facts panel in the ways that you have suggested, and it'll give you a complete picture of what that product is actually going to do for your health. So thank you for walking us through something that is super practical for people listening.
Yeah, I think reading the label is probably one of the simplest skills, but it is a skill that can help all of us make better decisions about our health, especially when we're shopping. And if we do that ahead of time, I think it even makes it easier for us to go in and avoid some of those bad decisions that are easy to make because of all the marketing that's on those packages.
Well, thank you to our listeners for listening to today's episode of the Frontline Health Podcast. If there are other nutrition topics that you would like for us to cover, please let us know down in the comments. Go out today, take ownership of your health, because you are your best health advocate.